Okay, so we made it through. We're at the last half of this particular section. I know that sometimes we got to get a little detail. I got to get a little detail to help you better understand some of these concepts because it's so easy to gloss over the information. And I just want to help make sure that you are taking the time to get a full understanding and that you're learning how to practice with the code. Because this is where you learn good habits now. This is going to set the tone for your future. So take the time. Don't skimp on this. Don't let this go. Don't cut the corners here. This is where you need to really focus and really put the effort in. So, like I said, if you're new to this channel and you would like to follow along with the curriculum, the link is in the description. Let's get into it. So, example, a logger. We're going to go to the logger example. Another common example of a function using another function to customize its behavior is that of logging. We log. It's important that you logging the information from your website, from your application. Sometimes things go wrong and you want to make sure you capture those logs of those errors. It's important. Now, you may not write that or create those files, but they need to be done because that's just another tool to give you some insight of how your program is running. So the real world applications are capable of logging messages such as errors, warnings, and statuses. Such applications allow for log messages to be sent to one or more destinations. For example, the application may log messages to both the console and to a file. We can write a logging function that relies on a function parameters to determine the logging destination. Here's an example. Take your time, go through this line by line, and understand what it's doing. Now, we're not writing or creating one today, but kind of get familiar with it because you never know when you may come across this in the future. Now, let's examine the example in more detail. There are three main program components. Lines 1 through 5 defines file logger. This is an anonymous function. There's no logic in it, but this is an anonymous function that we're using pretty much a variable. We're storing it inside of a variable, which is an object, which takes a string argument, MSG, which stands for message. We have not discussed writing a file, but Node.js is capable of doing so. Lines 7 through 10 define log error. That's your function. The first parameter is the message to be logged. The second parameter is the logging function that will do the work of sending the message somewhere. Log error doesn't know the details of how the message will be logged. It simply formats the message and calls logger. Line 12 logs an error using the file logger. So here's the file logger function that we have an anonymous function, and here's the actual function that we're using to log it. Something broke. Now, this is the flow of execution. Log error is called with the message and the logging function file logger passes an argument. Log error runs, passing the constructed message to logger, which refers to file logger. File logger executes, sending the message to a file. Here is a more complex logger. This example can be made even more powerful by enabling multiple loggers. Here's the code. This is what it may look like. Examine it, play around with it. The main change to the program is that log error now accepts an array of functions right here, meaning more than one, a collection. Remember, an array holds a collection that is index based. So this is 0, 1, but it has 2 items in it. It loops through the array, calling each logger with the message string, something broke. As with the validation example, these programs separate behaviors is a way that makes the code more flexible. To add or remove a logging destination, we can simply change the way that we call log error. The code inside log error doesn't know how each logging function does its job. It is concerned only with creating the message string and passing it to the logger or loggers. Word of caution. What happens if a function accepts an argument to be a function but it isn't? What type of error occurs when attempting to use a value that is not a function as if it were one? Okay, let's look at it. Let's go to inspect. Let's go to the console. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. I'm going to paste it in. Now I'm going to run. What do you think the error is going to be? And what type of error will it be? Okay, it's a type error. Get familiar with the errors. What is it telling us? Func is not a function. Now this is where you have to remember the rules and remember what you've learned. Rely on your training. Rely on your training. The more you practice it, you'll be able to respond instinctively instead of just reacting. So here, when we look at the function is called call me, and we're passing the parameter func. Now remember the rule, a parameter is a variable. It can be used like a variable to hold information. What's happening here is that we're trying to add parentheses. Understand something here. Parentheses is another what we call operator. It's an operator. Believe it or not, the parentheses is an operator. That operator is what makes invokes the function. But this is not a function. So how do I fix that? So I'm going to up on my keyboard, the up arrow, and I'm going to come back here and I'm going to address this. I'm going to remove the parentheses because again, it's an operator. I don't need that. So now when I run it, what happens? I don't see anything. Why don't I see anything? Because, let me do my up arrow, because I'm not returning anything. So now when I return it, there, I get what I'm looking for. I'm getting the results I'm looking for. So again, this is the end of this video, end of this section. Look at what I just did. I play around with the code. I find out how it works. I try different things to get different results. I want to break it so I can find out what the error is, so I can help you. Now, I have the confidence to know what was wrong. You have to keep doing so you can build your confidence. Okay? So now remember, the more you do, the more you improve. See you in the next section.